Hey, how you doing there again, folks? You get a course? Brandon Wenzel, come back at you. Another confession off my Concert Confession series. Folks, Concert Confession is a series of vlogs that I've been doing for a little while now where I go over there and I confess my concert sins. I reveal my recreational revelries. I muse over my musical misadventures. Basically, it's just one big excuse for me to go over there and talk about concerts that I've been to recently, and it's kind of an ego stroke. But we'll get to that. Folks, it's a super simple format. I'm going to go over there and I'm just going to yammer on about the show that I went to and have a good time while I'm doing it. Whilst I'm doing all that, I'm inside my back room today, which means we get Peter Can Thunderbolt poster. And whilst I'm doing all that, folks, I am doing something else. What is it, though? I'm wearing a super cool shirt. Folks, when I wear super cool shirts, I always like to highlight the super cool shirt. What super cool shirt am I wearing for you today, though? Happens to be my half game shirt, which has a specific tie-in to one of the bands that I went to go see. If you're unfamiliar with the band Half Game, though, they were a new metal band in sort of the late 90s, early 2000s era. Never super popular. I didn't have any idea who the fuck they were, quite frankly. Up until maybe about a year ago, I found their stuff while looking around. And the kind of neat thing about it was that through doing a little digging, I found out that the lead singer of Half Game was also the lead singer of the band Dead. And, guess who I went to go see? If you happen to be interested in Half Game at all or any of their music, I'd be more than happy to kind of point you in the right direction as far as what stuff is available for them. They haven't been a band in a really long time. But anyway. So what did I do? Where did I go? Now, first and foremost, folks, this is episode 5, and it's the actual episode 5. My last video that I did, I went over there and called it episode 5 in the video. That was because I went to go check my playlist for this, and it had 5 videos in it, but I forgot that my intro was one video. So this is the actual episode 5. This is also concert number 178. I'm getting closer to 200 every single time. But yeah, so I have a little itinerary thing here that I like to go through where I talk about, what I did and what I went to go see. The main band was a band called Attila. They were the headliners. They were touring with Butcher Babies and Dead. You also had an Australian band called Dealer. And then you also had a guy named Nathan James. And then there was also I think a local band called Thutch, who I hadn't seen before, but we'll get into all that basically right now. The first thing that I always like to talk about is the venue. The venue in this case was the WC Social Club, which is a venue I am very, very familiar with. In fact, I'm going to be going to another show out there tomorrow. They are a great spot. Really good location. Sound is really good. The staff are always really cool. It's just, and especially for me, enjoying the type of bands that I do, they're pretty much the best place that I can go to for a lot of these shows because, it's one of the best spots to go if you're those type of bands. It was, I don't have anything really negative to say about WC Social Club. They're a great spot. And they fit perfectly for this particular show. But that leads us into the show itself, and let's talk about the bands because, let's be honest, that's the meat of the thing. So the first band up, the openers, were, like I said, a band called Thutch. Who I never heard of before, but I think they were a local band because they weren't on any of the poster material or anything like that for the tour. So I'm guessing they were brought in as a local opener. I had a lot of fun with these guys. They are a masked kind of horror themed band. So, they have sort of a horrorcore kind of vibe to them a little bit. They also had a lot of sort of humor involved in what they were doing. One of their songs is one of the greatest titles in the history of songs. Specifically, it's called Kill Kevin Spacey Before He Kills You. I actually got a video of that song. It's on my channel in case you want to check it out. They were a blast, man. I really had a lot of fun with them. They were great as an opener. I want to give special mention, by the way, to their drummer, because at one point during one of their songs, man, he went absolutely fucking crazy. He was just fucking hitting it. And that said, all the other band members were great as well. The lead singer went by the moniker of Dead Ed. And, I mean, as far as openers go, they were really solid. The crowd seemed to be pretty into him, I mean, for what it was, the opening band and stuff. But yeah, man, like, I really dug it. I had a lot of fun with their set. They didn't exactly like blow me away or anything, but like again, as a solid local opener, absolutely. Let's move on to band number 2 though, because I have 6 to get through. Second band up was an individual goes by Nathan James, which I'm guessing is probably his name, which would make sense why he goes by that. I'd never heard of Nathan James before, which was a little bit surprising after I started looking into his stuff because not only does his style perfectly fit the type of music that I'm into, but like apparently he actually has like a really strong online presence. The only thing is that I think kind of worked against me knowing more about him. He seems to work a lot with like TikTok, and I don't give two fucks about TikTok. But he's also on other platforms as well, and YouTube and such. I really, really, really enjoyed his set. And I have to give credit again to the drummer of for his show because the drummer was fucking kick ass too, man. Like I don't like there were just a lot of really good drummers on this one, but the guitarist was really badass as well. Really high energy. I mentioned I actually got the opportunity to talk to him a little bit after his set. Seemed like a really good dude. We chatted. We had a fun little conversation. I mentioned that his vibe kind of reminded me a little bit of the band Red Star. And, in their sort of this kind of new generation of nu metal, which I personally am a big, big fan of. I think it's great that nu metal has had this resurgence and that we're getting really cool artists out of it. Like I said, really high energy. Zool, bless him, he was trying his damnedest to get the crowd to mosh or do anything. The crowd was with him, but they weren't quite willing to go over there and go crazy and mosh with him, which I think hurt his feelings a little bit, because obviously if you're up there, you're trying to get the crowd to go with you. And I wish I could have been that guy to initiate it all, to go over there and do this stuff. But it's like, I got a bad knee. I'm almost 40 years old. If I screw up my knee, I'm out of work for a week, and then that's a paycheck I lose. So my moshing days, maybe not over, but incredibly selective. But I really did enjoy his set. In fact, so much so, for me, he was the find of the night. Like, all the bands were great in one way or another, but like, yeah, his was the one where it was like, okay, yeah. I'm on board with you now. So, moving on to the Australian band, Dealer. No idea who the fuck these folks were. I even have a friend who lives in Australia, and he didn't know who they were. So I think they're sort of new-ish. I think they mentioned they just put out their first album, though I could be completely wrong on that. I didn't research it properly because I'm not professional in any way. These guys were badass too. Like, really heavy, really high energy, and like the best way I can describe being in that show was it kind of reminded me of like when you go over there, if you go on like YouTube or other, video things or whatever, and you go back and watch like shows from like sort of the 90s or maybe even like some of the 80s stuff and everything of like bands that you really liked early in their career, and just like how crazy and just like how how much energy they had. That was really what it kind of reminded me of, like just being part of that. I could absolutely see this performance or one of their performances going over there and being that for somebody else 20 years down the line, being like, holy shit, dude, did you see this this video of Dealer playing in West Chicago 20 years ago? That kind of vibe. Really had a lot of fun with them, and it was kind of cool too because being that they are from Australia, a little bit different vibe in terms of performance wise than the American bands. Hard to put my finger on it exactly what it was, but it was there. Really enjoyed their set. I would definitely go over there. I don't know if I would go. I don't think I would go see them just to go see them. But if they were on a show, it would be a nice benefit, if that makes any sense. Moving on, let's get to the first of the 3 sort of main headlining bands. That being specifically Dead. Dead was the band that I was there to see. I ran into their stuff a couple years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago, and they were kind of the first sort of new generation nu metal band that I became aware of, where like it became more evident to me that like nu metal was kind of coming back a little bit, and there were new artists who were carrying that torch. Dead was one of those bands for me where it's like, holy shit, this is awesome. We're getting new metal again. Like I said, they do have the association with the band Halfgain through their lead singer. That's actually why I wore this shirt. I was hoping I'd get the opportunity to go over there and, maybe talk a little bit with the lead singer, or, maybe at least while he was on stage or something, and be like, Didn't end up happening, but what did end up happening was their show was fucking awesome. Like, I knew I was going to like it because I already liked them as a band. But, when you go over there and you watch, like, music videos or, even if you hear, like, tracks off the album and stuff, obviously it's a more polished experience, so it has its own vibe. When you go to see it live, though, it can be very, very different from the presentation, again, in that polished atmosphere. And that was definitely the case for Dead. And I mean that in the best way. Because as much as I knew I was going to enjoy them, getting to see them live, they were heavier, they were more raw, and again, in the best way. Like, they didn't lose any of what made me get into their stuff in the first place. They just went over there and added to that with that physical experience, and I loved it. Like, my only two gripes with Dead and their set. Number one, needed to be longer. They played, I believe, 7 songs, and it went so quickly, man. Like, I think, and obviously you got to work within time constraints and what have you, and especially when you got 6 fucking bands on the set. I would have loved at least another 2 or 3, because, like, I felt like they had so much really cool momentum going, and the crowd was 100% on their side. Like, when Dealer came up, and I forgot to mention this, Dealer was the first band that really got the crowd moving with, like, the moshing and stuff like that. Dead, I was a little bit worried about, because nu metal, yeah, you can absolutely mosh to nu metal, and you should, but it's obviously not as heavy as other genres. But that wasn't the case. People were moshing like crazy, and it was fucking great. And my only other point of contention was that, again, I was really hoping I'd get the opportunity to go over there and shoot the shit a little bit with some of the members, since I am a fan of their stuff. Plus, I had the shirt and everything. But sadly, they didn't end up hanging out by the merch table or anything. And that's not a knock against them, by the way. Different bands do what they do differently. They probably did like a VIP thing, I'm guessing. But other than that, man, they were fucking awesome. It was really great. It's always nice when they not only meet your expectations, but exceed them. Second to last band were the Butcher Babies, sorry. I always fucking get that wrong in my head. Who I had seen previously. They opened up for Mudvayne a few years ago, and I did get to see them perform there. That was actually back when they had both of the main babies. Butcher Babies has always been fronted by 2 women as the vocalists, and last year in 2024, one of them decided to kind of move on from doing, the work with Butcher Babies. So it was just the one, and I have to admit, coming into it, I was like, okay, is that going to affect the performance? Not at all. Going from seeing them when they opened for Mudvayne at like a, sort of like a Coliseum, type of thing, like a really big venue, to seeing them in a more intimate setting, the difference was night and day. Plus, they had a lot more time to go over there and really build into their set list. They definitely had a long set list, but in a really good way. The lead singer, I believe her name is Heidi, fucking killed it, man. Like, super high energy, destroying on the vocals. I was enthralled. Like, I already enjoyed their stuff, for what it was. I wouldn't have counted myself as being, like, the biggest of their fans, but I liked it. This was one of those instances where seeing them live made me a bigger fan. And, like, full credit to all the band members. They were badass as anything. But I have to give real credit to the lead singer, because not only was she destroying it on the vocals, like, she was going over there, she did, like, a fucking jump kick off one of the set risers. Like, she was just busting out moves. Like, she was really going at it. She clearly keeps herself in really good shape for these shows, and that's impressive. And even beyond that, they actually had a one song where they went over there and really kind of brought it down, a little bit. It was a very emotional thing, and that was really cool too. Again, the crowd, 100% invested. I was like, well, how big is the pop going to be for Butcher Babies? I don't mean that in a bad way, just, you never know until you're in that environment. Crowd fucking loved it, man. They were just absolutely, it was great. Let's move on to the final band, though, Attila. Now, was aware of Attila before this. I maybe even heard one or two of their songs, but never really got into Attila. Uh, with the lead up to this show, I did look into their stuff a little bit more. Still didn't get huge into them, like I liked some of their stuff for what it was. Getting to see them live, I didn't care that much about their set, and I hate to be that guy, but I did go over there and make sure, I was going to stick around for the whole thing. And for what it was a really fun set, and I have to give huge credit to the crowd. The crowd ate it up, man. They were 100%, like, genuinely some of the best crowd response that I've seen in a while. Like, they had pits going, they had stage diving going, they had crowd surfing going. It was a thing. And Attila, to their credit, man, like, they absolutely brought it. The songs that they played were perfect for that environment to get the crowd amped up. And for what they were fun. Now, that said, am I now Brandon Wenzel, master and commander of the Attila fan club? No. My opinion of them improved. Not that it was bad, but, it upped a little bit. But realistically, still just didn't care that much. Like, it was a fun set and everything, and like I said, I don't think they hung around too long or anything, and, I enjoyed the energy that the crowd had going for them. They fall into the, like I was talking about with the band Dealer, I wouldn't go out to see them specifically again, but if they were on a tour with somebody, that would be a bonus. They're definitely a fun band to see live, even if, again, it didn't exactly enthrall me as much. But, moving on from that, I do want to talk about the crowd a little bit during this. The crowd was badass, man. Like, the place was almost filled to capacity on a fucking Thursday night, no less. So, great crowd. And it was also a really great sort of, like, a variety of people in the crowd. Especially with the Butcher Babies playing. There were a lot of women in the crowd, which is cool, to the extent where at one point in time there was an all-female mosh pit going. And it wasn't just like 2 or 3 people. It was like actually a lot of them. And straight up, that was the best pit of the night. Those girls went hard. And even during the normal pits, there were girls getting into it. Like, they were representing. And not just during Butcher Babies. Like, fucking, they were there for that whole show. And that was really cool to see. Couple other things that I thought were pretty neat. At one point in time, there was a guy who went over there and brought his daughter with him. His daughter was very small. She did have hearing protection. I do want to emphasize that. But it was cool. They were actually right next to me at one point, and the little girl would go over there and put her fist out, and so the band members would go over there and give it a little fist bump. It was the most adorable thing. He even had a little daddy-daughter mosh at one point in time with just the two of them. Everybody was in love with everything that they were doing. It was so cool. They did end up leaving a little bit early, got a little bit too raucous, but I did get to go over there as they were getting to leave. I went over there and I saw the little girl and I threw up the metal horns at her, and she responded in kind with a full-on metal face, and it was like, there we go, man! New generation. That was just so cool, man. It's always great to see that. And other than that, like, this crowd, like I said, really great. About the only point of contention I had with the crowd was it was during Attila's set, when, again, the mosh started getting a little bit heavier. One of the guys from the band Dealer got in there. I think it was the guitarist or one of them. And I don't know if this was just the Australian influence or whatever, but dude started doing the spin kick bullshit. I can't abide by that, man. I hate that hardcore nonsense bullshit. All it fucking does is just increase the likelihood that somebody's going to get fucking hit in the face, and it's going to go over there and take people out of the pit. And sure enough, there was one idiot who decided to go over there and follow him in doing this, and he was a big dude. He was like well over 6 feet, and it's like, dude, you can't be fucking throwing your goddamn feet around at people. And that guy really actually started to piss me off a little bit, because at that point, I was close to the pit. Most of the show, I was up front and, like, right there. But since Attila, I wasn't that interested in their set, I went to buy merch during that time and came back. So I ended up near the wall of the pit. That guy, I mean, look, do what you're going to do, but if you're the only 2 guys doing it in a group of literally dozens of people, maybe you're doing something wrong. I'm just saying. Keep that, if you want to do that stuff, keep it to the environment where it makes sense. And maybe that's an Australian thing. If that's the case, keep it to Australia. Or keep it to the hardcore stuff, which is, that's the environment for it. But anyway, I'm running a little bit long on this one, so let's get into some of the merch that I got. Go through it real quick. I got, boom, shirt from Nathan James, because, again, really loved his set. Thought it was very cool. Got a, Razafrazin. Got a shirt from, boom, Dead, because I had to. Oh, yeah. Only problem with this, they were out of double XL except for, like, kind of their lamest shirt. So I had to get this one as XL, but it actually fit pretty well. So I've been losing a little weight lately. Hopefully that's paying off. And had to go over there and get a, boom, a Butcher Baby shirt. Had to. And I really wanted to get one, especially one of the newer ones, because, it features the fact that now they just have the one vocalist. And I do think that, there's a distinct separation there, but not in a bad way. All the shirts are super cool. And I got a couple other cool things as well. I managed to go over there and grab, the, not the set list, but the billing list for all the bands. I went over there and I asked the guy at the door if I could have it after everyone was said and done. Said it was fine. Cool little memento. And here's the super neatest thing. Ha! I got part of a drumstick. This was during the Nathan James set. The drummer went over there and he had a few broken sticks. He went over there and gave one to one of the audience members, gave one to the little girl because everybody was like, give one to the little girl. And then he went over there and broke off one, and I managed to go over there and snag part of it, which is really cool. I always like getting stuff like this. Merch aside, let's talk about pros and cons real quick. Pros, all the bands were great. It was a stacked set list. Everything about it was a lot of fun. Again, I really like the energy. I really like the crowd. And I love that everybody came out on a fucking Thursday to make this as big a deal as it was. Yeah. I mean, standouts for me, again, have to be Nathan James, Dead, and Butcher Babies. I really loved all of them. Thought they put on really fantastic shows. And everybody did. But again, those were just the highlight ones for me. Cons? I didn't care very much about Attila. And I hate to say it, because, it's not like they put on a bad show. Clearly, I was in the minority there. I just, they could have been there or not, realistically. I could have ended on Butcher Babies and been just as fine. But, what else? Again, I was hoping to meet Dead. That would have been cool. I was really sort of hoping for that. But, again, every band does it differently. I also want to give a mention, by the way, in the pros, really great turnover rate when it came to going over there and setting up the next band. They just boom, 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 boom. It was really nice. I was expecting the show to go for a lot longer, but they hit it really well. Honestly, that was, and except for the spin kick idiots, that was about it in terms of stuff that was, on the con side of things. And again, even at, Attila's not a con. They were sort of neutral, I guess, for me. All that said, let's talk about the grade here. It goes from F all the way up to S. For me personally, I'm gonna give this one an A-. I gave the last one that I did an A- also. This one I'm gonna give an A- because, again, I didn't care that much about the headliner. There are definitely headliners I personally would have preferred to have seen with them, but again, the crowd response was really great, so I had nothing to complain about there. With the exception of the spin kick guys, the little kid was an added cool, adorable bonus. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that really, and yeah, like I said, I mean, I really wanted to do my half game thing with the lead singer, but yeah, I think an A- is pretty damn good for that show, especially with 6 bands, because all it takes is one band to really kind of fuck up the whole thing. But all the bands brought it, and I did have a really fun time, even with Attila's set, even though I wasn't that into them. So yeah, that's my overall grade and experience for this episode 5 of the WC Social Club Butcher Babies Dead Attila Dealer Thutch Nathan James show. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here now because we're going on 25 minutes. I really need to learn how to pace these a little bit better. It's a new format. I'm still learning. But folks, please go over there and support your local music scene, support your venues and stuff like that. And if you can, get out to shows whenever possible. It's a lot of fun, at least for me personally. Buy merch, by the way. Buy merch. This is what keeps the bands going. And bands going makes me happy. So if you're not going to do it for them, do it for your buddy Brandon. But anyway, I'm going to finish on that note, and we're going to go over there and we're going to throw up the metal horns. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to end out. Have yourself a great one, folks.